So before we start all our presentations, I'd like to introduce our keynote for today's event, Mr. Tim Denman. Since 2015, Mr. Denman has held the role of Cybersecurity Learning Director at Defense Acquisition University. Mr. Denman leads the cybersecurity teaching and consulting team, where they support the development of the Defense Acquisition University cybersecurity learning products, training efforts, and content consulting. Mr. Denman has also worked exclusively for the DoD CIO Zero Trust Portfolio Management Office. He understands the critical role of Zero Trust and Zero Trust training, how it plays with the DoD. So, Mr. Denman, thank you for opening Zero Trust Industry Days. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. It is definitely my great honor. I really appreciate being able to speak here. So I'll go ahead and share my slides, I believe. Very good. Okay. Well, as mentioned, thank you, Rhonda, for your introduction. I'm very, very happy to get a chance to speak. Just to give you an idea, as I mentioned in the bio, I started in 2022, in March of 2022, with the Zero Trust Portfolio Management Office on a rotational assignment. I was there for 1 year, and I was asked, "So, what is going to be your role after you leave?" And my answer, and I think it's been the right one, is I'm going to be much more involved than I ever was before, because I've got more team members. So we're doing a lot more things with Zero Trust as we're going forward. So very honored to get a chance to talk. I'll make this quick, give you a little bit of time if you have any questions. But let's see. Let me see now. Do you see my second slide yet?
There we go.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure which screen I'm on. Okay, so the first question from the DoD standpoint, what was the first? Why did the DoD adopt Zero Trust? If you understand about Zero Trust, really in the 2007 timeframe, there were some government initiatives and some things that started bringing us closer to that, and then in 2010, John Kindervag had an article called "No More Chewy Centers," and that really got it going. John invented the terminology and really kind of put everything together. So what happened was, fast forward about 9 years or so, we see so many things that are going on. SolarWinds, Microsoft Exchange Server, Colonial Pipeline, all kind of stuff happening. And so in 2019, there was a study of Zero Trust by NSA and Cybercom, and they said, "Hey, what can we do?" The bottom line is, the way has been being done, they kind of realized we can't go along that path again. We can't just use perimeter-based protection. So even after that, in May of 2021, and many of you guys are familiar with this, but the Executive Order 14028 came out that said, "Hey, we're going to have to improve the nation's cybersecurity." With that, it's going to be based on Zero Trust. Very, very important as we look at it. Also talked about taking advantage of cloud security, all those type things. I love the quote this was quoted by Mr. Sherman. I took this directly from his speech last month, April 2nd, at the Zero Trust Symposium. Our culture of cybersecurity must be based on Zero Trust. Okay, so as we look at this, I'm sorry, I'll get there. What does the strategy say? And you guys are familiar with this, I think, but I wanted to just bring it up because I got to tell you, we had a strategy session a couple of weeks ago at the Mark Center. And one of the things they did was at the very beginning, read the entire strategy again. That was all we did. And it really bears looking into again and again, um, even by those who know it well, because we're really trying to, again, base what we're doing on zero trust principles, and I got to go across the department. So we have to adopt a zero trust mindset. Here's my best way to put this. Hope you guys can get this analogy. In 1968, Dick Fosbury, the very first time ever, used the Fosbury flop in the Olympics for the high jump. He actually won the gold medal. People were like, "Wow, this is a lazy man. You know, he's not that talented, and he shouldn't be using this. We could do better with this." They had so many better ways to do things, they thought. But if you go fast forward 8 years, since 1976, every gold medalist has used the Fosbury flop. And why? The question is, why is that? And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But the big thing is that it didn't replace the high jump. It just enabled the high jump. In the same way, I believe zero trust, it doesn't replace cybersecurity, but it enables it. But the reason, and look at this quote up here, the reason this happened, the Fosbury flop came about, and I believe the reason zero trust is so important is because if you look at this quote: when the environment around the task changes, a new and better way to do things is usually possible. What was changing from the zero trust, from the Fosbury flop standpoint? Well, in the 30s and on to the 50s, probably, the landing surface for the high jump was sand. So people were jumping and falling on sand, and it was pretty painful if you were to go back first, kind of like the Fosbury flop did. They started using sawdust a little bit later, probably in the 50s, kind of intermittently. And it was a little softer, but still a very inconsistent surface, very hard to land, especially rear first, as was done in the Fosbury flop. Well, really, as we get into the 60s, we start seeing foam blocks used, and then later on, the foam padding that we know today. And so when you jump, if you jump rear first, however you jump, it's not as painful when you land. That is what really was the key enabler to the Fosbury flop. Fast forward to the day, what's the changes in our environment? You know, we look at it, we have the mainframe that's been moved to VPNs, to cloud computing, to a much more distributed environment. COVID brought this about more than I could ever have imagined, but we were already headed in that direction. So when we talked about the executive order, we've got to advance towards zero trust, accelerate movement to secure cloud services. All that is coming together. Zero trust takes advantage of the environment. It's perfectly fit for the environment that we have. So if you look at the growth, 31.45 billion in 2023 is the zero trust security market, growing, projected to triple that by 2030. You know, as you look at it, again, it takes advantage of the remote work, all the things that we're doing. And what does zero trust do? It helps us secure the endpoints. We have controls, we have continuous monitoring, we have those dynamic access policies that really look at behavior. So the big thing I want to share with you guys as we look at this is, I don't know about you guys, but I was cyber when cyber wasn't cool. I was involved in information assurance and all those type of things many, many years ago. I have kind of kept up in some ways. I've usually every year have looked at the DOT&E, the Director of Operational Testing and Evaluation, their annual report. Beginning in about 2020, there started to be some recognition of zero trust. If you look at the 2022 report, it has some very, very strong findings as it relates to zero trust. If you look at 2023, it also kind of goes a little bit further. You know, it says, hey, DoD is implementing zero trust best practices. They've got to be done if we're going to defend against advanced cyber attacks. And here's the thing that you see over and over again. We're seeing positive outcomes when even some of the tenets and pillars of zero trust are used. This quote I like from Honorable Sherman. I don't know if you guys are familiar. I'm not a big Avatar fan, but the first part is kind of a reference to Avatar and unobtainium, but basically saying that zero trust is not going to be unobtainable to the department. We're going to make this happen by 2027. Here's some things we're doing: microsegmentation, all the type things that we'll talk about just a little bit. I know later on it's going to be talked about a whole lot more, but the bottom line is from Mr. Sherman, from Honorable Sherman, we cannot fail on this. As I say so often, and I was cyber a long time ago, and we kept on seeing, hey, we're getting a lot better, and we see so many different things that are coming along that are making us doing better at cyber. However, the attackers, because they don't need a lot of their tools are free and everything else, the attackers got better at an even faster rate. So it was a trend that cannot continue. So that's why we look at zero trust. That's why we have to go to that point. We really have no choice as we're looking into this. Randy Resnick, who's he's the lead of the Zero Trust Portfolio Management Office. You know, this is really, really important. It's not one single capability. It's not a device. It's a framework, an architectural approach, and a methodology to prevent malicious actors from accessing our most critical assets and reducing existing attack surfaces. John Kindervag calls it the only real strategy we have out there for cybersecurity. And I really believe that's true. So what is the strategy behind that? You know, first of all, absolutely, it's kind of what it sounds like. Nothing is implicitly trusted. Everything is going to be verified. Now, what does that mean to the user? It shouldn't be a huge problem to the users because we're taking advantage of so many things that have increased the speed and the technology and everything else. So it should not be a huge detriment to the users. But the big thing we got to say here is, hey, as we look at this, we're assuming a breach. We're assuming it's happened. We're assuming a hostile environment. And I don't know about you guys, but that's not a very difficult assumption for me. I know that's real easy to happen that way. So then you go to, zero trust transformation. It's not going to happen overnight. It requires an overarching strategy, focused implementation, and buy-in at all levels of the organization. It is a cultural and paradigm shift at its very core. Like I say, I know many of you guys are very deep into the zero trust side of things, but this message has got to go out as leaders. You've got to share with leaders the need for zero trust and the need beyond just one capability. It's really a mindset. It's really going to change the way we look at cybersecurity. I like John Kindervag, the way he does it here. He talks about the protect surfaces being the data, the assets, the applications, and the services, the very critical piece of what we're trying to protect. Zero trust, it's not that it doesn't care about some of those peripheral things that you see, the perimeter and all those type things, but it's really concerned about the data. It assumes that people are already into the networks, are already there. It's really looking at the real important part of it, which is the data. In this case, you see the president. This is the president's motorcade. You see the perimeter security. You see the monitoring that's going on. But when it gets right down to it, the 4 Secret Service agents there, the ones in the car, are about protecting the president, and in this case, it was the president and his daughter. And that's a really good way to look at zero trust. So I love Benjamin Kuntz, superb. He's done some amazing things with the Eisenhower Center there at Fort Eisenhower, the cybersecurity Center of Excellence. You know, he found out, he used a 3-phase approach. He utilized red teams to prove, and he said, this is what I hear over and over again. They were actually able to defeat the red teams. Nothing that had never happened before. And I have to tell you that we're going to see that the red teams are actually we're working with them a whole lot, working to verify some things, some things like that. But that's really when you start seeing the testing that's done. When you have zero trust put in place, it's not hard to realize its value. Also, not hard to understand. It's not a fad. It's something that's gonna stay around. So I love this quote, and I want to leave it with you guys as you really ponder and look at some things. You know, culture eats strategy for breakfast. As you look at this, the culture is key, and each of you people, you men and women that are here in this event, you have to understand that you're a big part of changing the culture, and so that's why the strategy comes about. It says, hey, our strategy number one, our goal number one, is cultural adoption of zero trust. You know, so. What are we trying to get? A security framework and mindset that guides design, develop, integration, and deployment of IT across the DoD zero trust ecosystem. You know, that's really what we're looking for, and that's what I've had an honor to be a part of, trying to make some changes there. This is just I won't go over this in detail, but this is the way the DoD has done it. And it bases it over 7 pillars. How do we protect each of the 7 pillars? You have to keep on asking. You know, if you protect the user but don't have the devices protected, you're not going to be there. If you have the networks and environment protected but not applications and workloads, you're gonna have some problems. So all of those pillars have got to be protected, have got to be looked at, and that's what the DoD strategy does. Like I say, won't go into this in detail at all, but what we're trying to get is 91 target activities. There's 152 different activities. Some of those activities we're already doing today. It's just a matter of making. Remember, I said this is a strategy. It's instead of just putting something out there as a control, we put it out there that aligns with the strategy of zero trust. And so that's what we're looking at as we're going forward. There's another thing that the DoD has given people an option to do. Hey, we're not going to tell you exactly where to go. You can either use your legacy or commercial cloud or a single infrastructure or single ecosystem. And so the components get to choose that. But the bottom line is they've got to work towards that zero trust framework and mindset by 2027. They've got to be there. The PFMO, as I mentioned, is doing some amazing things. they've got a strong mission out there to do this. It's been my honor and really great privilege to get a chance to be part of bringing the training and some of those other things. I think one of the neatest things we were able to do, because I was embedded with the PFMO, on November 22nd, of 2022, the Zero Trust strategy came out. I had an awareness course that I was developing that had about 80% or 20% at least was based on the Zero Trust strategy, and we were able to get the deploy at 1 hour awareness course on Joint Knowledge Online. We were able to get it deployed in 1 week, and the only reason it was delayed that long was because of it was Thanksgiving at the time, through Thanksgiving. But so we have that one. We have 4 total online courses. We're doing webinars. We're doing in-person training. We're doing virtual training. We're trying to do all of the above. We're continuing to work that. We're going to do a engineering leadership workshop with Johns Hopkins coming up, Applied Physics Lab. I'm looking at a big event in Huntsville coming up at the end of July. So it's really an honor to see what's going on, and not because it's cool, I love to do this, but because it is I believe it's a great chance to make a great impact. So that's kind of where I wanted to leave it. The main thing is we know the enemy's out there and he's already in our networks. And, Zero Trust has got to be done. There's no question about it. What we've done is we've done some great strides in cybersecurity, but the perimeter model of trying to protect things is just not working. It's not going to work. And so you guys as leaders have got to lead the way in this. It's not a single application. It's not just a mere technology that you laid out there, but what it is it involves cultural change. And so as leaders, I'm excited to be part of this, and I look forward to what's in store for the rest of the day, because I know there's a lot of good things going on out there.